and to grow cannabis plants in their own home. While it was successfully passed, Issue 2 is state law, not a constitutional amendment. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 five-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Custom blinds at low prices and free shipping. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron has a rematch tonight in Houston with Dylan the Villain Brooks. Brooks signed with Houston in the summer after Memphis let him go. Brooks called LeBron old during their playoff series last season. He was ejected in Game 3 for hitting LeBron below the belt. Brooks is already talking smack. He said he's ready to lock up LeBron. 5 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are at Brooklyn tonight. Second game for James Harden with the Clippers, 4:30 tip. Virginia Union will play Winston-Salem State in the NBA's HBCU Classic during All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis. The game will be Saturday, February 17th. TNT and ESPN2 will have live coverage. The Rams signed veteran quarterback Carson Wentz, a first-round pick in the 2016 draft. The Rams need a backup quarterback after releasing Brett Ripien on Tuesday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours, now through December 20th. All of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Delighted to have you tuned into our program today. In this hour, two great conversations. On the B side of this hour, we will talk about black folk languishing in adaptive behaviors and antiquated non-solutions around the issue of race for far too long. The question we'll address on the backside of this hour is whether or not it is possible to heal the wounds of American slavery. A lot of folks don't want to talk about it, but can you even heal the wounds? What's that process look like? Healing the wounds of American slavery. We'll talk about that with author Paige Means Hopper, who'll join us live in studio in about 30 minutes. We'll do that on the backside of this hour. We commenced this hour, though, with the legendary Rick Fox, who has had more than an adequate career in both the NBA and Hollywood, and now the brother is building environmentally safe homes. I am pleased to welcome to this program Rick Fox. Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm pretty good, Tavis. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's my great delight to have you and hear that melodious voice of yours. It's been far too long since we've seen each other, but I'm glad to. And I still can't see you, but I can hear you. And I'm glad it's a good thing to hear your voice, man. You been well though?
I've been really well. Yes, I've been blessed to once again be surrounded by a lot of talented, amazing people pursuing a journey and a mission and a crusade that seems insurmountable. A lot like when I first pursued championship success in the basketball court with the greats like Shaq and Kobe, and we were able to get some things done then. And so now I'm out in the world and as a climate entrepreneur trying to do the same.
I want to talk about that in a moment here, but before I do that, let me just ask how you process and what you would say to others about the way you have shown up in the world. And by showing up, I mean specifically, Rick, that you've had so many wonderful careers in so many different spaces. And I raise this because I think people think that, you come into the world and you figure out what that one thing is you can do, and you're stuck there for the rest of your life. And they don't, I think, appreciate that your talent, when used, will expand itself. It will grow for itself. So I'm always fascinated by people who find themselves over the course of their life doing a variety of different things, doing all those things well, winning at all these different levels, but never ceasing to challenge themselves or to, frankly, assign themselves to do whatever their gift, skill, and talent, God-given gift, skill, and talent allows them to do. I wonder if you just might say a word about that, broadly speaking, then we'll talk about your being an environmental entrepreneur.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I would tell you that for me, life has been a series of opportunities that have come to me, I think primarily because of two reasons. One, I had parents who foundationally rooted me in faith, and when I think have faith as your foundation in your life, there's a belief that things are possible. So I don't think I've ever woken a day in my life without a gratitude for another breath, but also a belief that my day ahead was an opportunity to explore the greatest depths of what I could be in that moment, in that day, and in my life. And so my father was an entrepreneur. My father was also a man that raised his kids with the belief that, the pursuit of service to your community, the pursuit of being the best version of yourself was possible, no matter where you were in the world, even if you grew up on an island the size of 21 miles long, 7 miles wide. You were on this planet, and the planet was for you to explore. And so service and adventure has always been something that I've taken great joy in. And then I had a mother who was marked with the skills of an Olympic athlete. So you can imagine the heights as you grew up in a home where someone has pushed the excellence to the highest level athletically. Then my mom was always challenging me to be a better version of myself tomorrow than I was today. And so just the pursuit of knowing that I am enough, but I can do more, is something that I've always lived with as well. And so just evolving, being curious and evolving, being of service and being actually adventurous about uncovering and discovering the depths of what's out there in the world. And also trying to expand to be a better version of myself. So whether it was as an athlete on the basketball court, whether it was as an actor and a producer in Hollywood, and then as an entrepreneur in the gaming industry, and now as a climate tech entrepreneur, I just have always sought out teams and great opportunities to be of service. And each time it's been a bigger challenge. And so I look forward to tackling this one successfully.
I'm sure you will. If your track record says anything, it says that you are a winner. And I'm anxious to talk about your effort to build these environmentally safe homes and what that looks like when we come forward. This audience knows I say it all the time. I leave this studio every day, 3 hours of doing this show, Rick. I leave every day smarter than when I came in. And I'm always looking for something. I'm always looking for a nugget, sometimes nuggets to hold on to. And you just gave it to me in this this second hour of our program today. I love that line. I am enough, but I can do more. I am enough, but I can do more. That's the line of the day. You're listening to Rick Fox on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat in the Lex since '92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof.
Do more.
24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection consistent with SAHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
The City of Los Angeles Civil Rights Department and its Reparations Advisory Commission are calling on you to be a part of something powerful. Join the Black Experience Study to share your experiences with the City of Los Angeles. We want to hear your stories. To join the study, join a focus group, or schedule an interview with us, visit www.blackexperiencela.com by December 31st. For more information, call 213-978-1845 or visit www.laisforeveryone.com. KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Well, Tavis Smiley in conversation with the legendary NBA star, Hollywood actor, and entrepreneur Rick Fox, who I'm delighted to be in dialogue with. Rick, I want to ask you one of the 2 quick questions here and get to the environmental stuff. Because I'm always fascinated by these answers, and I love these takeaways, at least for me, and I think the audience feels similarly. You mentioned gratitude earlier. What over the years have you learned about gratitude? I say all the time that for me, gratitude is the gateway to greatness. If you would be great, it starts with being grateful. So the gratitude for me is the gateway to greatness. But what have you learned over the years about gratitude, since you used that word earlier?
Yeah, you can never drink wide and deep enough. It will fill your soul, your spirit. It'll fill your life if you start your day with a sip of that, and it's probably the one thing you can be gluttonous about. and in that regard, I have nothing but gratitude for the experiences I've had and the people that I've been blessed to be mentored by, and also the teammates. I call my teammates, whether in my family life or in my workspace. Everyone has been a teammate in my world, and it's how I see them. And I've had the greatest experiences and successes because of them. And so, therefore, I try to serve them and return that to them. And I'm grateful for them. So, I think if you have a spirit of gratitude, I think you see the world differently. You're able to embrace opportunities because your eyes and your heart are opened because you're in a place of appreciation when you start your day.
Yeah. Rick Fox is dropping bars today. I love that one. We can be gluttonous about gratitude. A lot of things you don't want to be gluttonous about, but you can be gluttonous, Rick Fox says, about gratitude, and I receive it. All right, let me spend the rest of my time. I thank you for that. Let me spend the rest of my time, Rick, talking about these environmentally safe homes that you are building. So tell me again. You've operated in so many successful spaces, or so many spaces successfully. Tell me about how you got into this space.
Yeah, as a non-material scientist transitioning from the world of basketball, sport, and entertainment into climate technology really was a gift of service that I was shown when we had a horrific hurricane that entered and came through the Caribbean, destroying two of my country's islands during Hurricane Dorian in 2019. And I was fortunate to get on the ground and be of help, but I also was, presented with one of the most horrific scenes I've seen in my life, where people were displaced, homes were destroyed, and I also discovered our country was about $11 billion in debt due to our recurring theme of having to rebuild after repeated storms.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was at that point in my life at 50 that I decided that it was time to not just be of service financially, but to dedicate my time and energy to solving a problem that I knew was going to be here for us as a country going forward from year to year, depending on when the next storm would show up. We'd still be faced with the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to ask questions about how do we build stronger, more sustainably, more hurricane resistant, and because I put that question out into the world everywhere I went. Uh, the spirit of service, I think people started to show up and the right people showed up. And in the case of the company I've started with my co-founder, Sam Marshall, we joined forces around a mission to de-link development from pollution and to actually change the way we build in the world. And that's a pretty daunting crusade to go out on when you're not a builder or you're not from the construction field, or in the case I am now, if you're not from the concrete
Mm-hmm.
space. But we had a patented formula that was created that we were able to secure. We caught lightning in a bottle when it comes to the ability to make building materials, i.e., concrete, that avoids and removes CO2 from the atmosphere in its process.
Mm.
So, if you know anything about concrete, in your audience, I'm sure is pretty smart. So they've definitely have a sense of what cement means to the world. Cement is the glue or the binder that brings concrete into existence, and it has been around for hundreds of years. But to get to cement, that binder, we have to burn rocks at really extensive heat and pressure and using a lot of energy. But it is the source of 8% of all negative emissions into our atmosphere.
Mm.
Hence the term climate change or climate disasters. The source of that is too much negative pollution from our development in the world, at the heart of it being the construction industry and cement. Cement is 8% of it. The construction industry at large is up to 30% of the negativity in our environment. So when you talk about deconstructing development from pollution, you have to look at the source of what's creating that pollution, and that is the building materials that we choose to use. We have at Partana, which is my company, we have building materials that are devoid of the negativity. We take our binder, which is made from recycled material from big upscaled industries
Mm-hmm.
like desalination and slag, which is the steel industry waste. We take those two waste materials and we put them together along with the process that we've patented, and we get to concrete materials. So CMU blocks, pavers, pour in place, precast, you name it, anything that could be made with concrete, we do. We do it in a more nature positive way. And so when you talk about the home that we built, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas should be acknowledged for his courage and leadership and bravery. He invited us 3 years ago to come home to the Bahamas, and right after COVID opened up, he invited us to set up this industry from the shores. We like to say the front line of climate, where people are living and no longer are talking about somehow being carbon neutral or zero by 2070.
Right.
They don't have time. We don't have time in my country.
Yeah.
We're out of time. So innovation is something we had to do, and we had to do it now. We've done that. We've built the first carbon negative home made with concrete in the world. And now we're being courted all over the world to bring this material to homes, to construction, to anything that could be used with concrete in a more nature positive way. We're bringing the choice of our materials to the world.
So I hear your point. First of all, that's fascinating. And I'm sitting here. Let me just say this: Rick and I've known each other for some years now. I didn't know this brother had all this in him. I'm just cracking up like this Negro is brilliant, and he's breaking this thing down. So never let it be said that athletes are stupid or that actors are stupid. I mean, Rick Fox is brilliant, and he's explaining this in a way that I'm trying to keep up with this brother as he explains it. But he explained it quite nicely, and even I could keep up. So you did your job well. But it leads me to ask. I hear that it's nature positive. I hear that it's great for the environment, but you started telling us that this idea, you started to wrestle rather with this idea after that horrible hurricane came through. So my question is, it's good for the environment, but how does it hold up to the environment? If you take my point.
Yeah, it's stronger. So
yeah.
we're stronger than traditional cement concrete. So that was the whole push for us, was to come up with a material that not only could be more hurricane resistant, and the push was to make it hurricane proof. And so until another hurricane comes through and we put it to test, we won't know if it's hurricane proof, but we know it's hurricane for sure resistant, because the strengths of our materials are third party tested rigorously and off the charts in our PSI strengths. And we've proven that if you like concrete and you think concrete is the strongest and best material out there, then let us introduce you to Partana, because we check the boxes at a higher level.
So tell me how this can be a game changer, not just in your country but around the globe. Tell me about the game. Pardon the pun for an NBA veteran. Tell me about the game changing nature of this reality.
Right. So if you've paid notice to the commitments being made by countries, by corporations, a lot has been mentioned of being accountable for your impact as an investor, as a manufacturer, as a developer on the planet as you move forward making money on a yearly basis. There are people out there, oil companies, airlines, technology-based companies, that all push the margins, obviously because they're public in a lot of ways in their revenues, and they need to generate income for their stockholders. They push the margins of wanting to manufacture more, produce more product, but also be accountable for their negative impact in their consumptions, right? In their productions. We provide a healthier way of continuing to consume and develop and grow as a planet, without setting ourselves back in the ways we have for the last 100 years. So when we think of building affordable housing, we think of building structures, warehouses, anything where building materials are used. We have the ability to now swap in our material, giving a company who has made these commitments to their investors, to the world, that they're going to be carbon zero or neutral by the year 2030, year 2040. We give them the solution that they're looking for. So the more that we build with materials like ours, or companies come along and produce materials like ours, the better we're going to be as a planet.
Yeah. This program is syndicated across the country, as you know. So we're heard in cities everywhere: Philadelphia, Chicago, New Orleans, Mississippi, around the country. We're heard. I'm based in flagship, of course, here in L.A. at our home station, KBLA Talk 1580. And for those who listen in L.A. or listen on our app, they know we've been running a promo pretty heavily that we're about to announce literally just some days from now. The most, I think, significant, bold, aggressive climate justice campaign that any black-owned media outlet has ever even undertaken. I mean, it's so big what we're about to announce. Again, just days from now. Tons of money behind it, tons of companies supporting it, public entities, city, county. It's going to be a huge thing that I want to share with you more offline, because I would love for you all, Partana, to be a part of this. But I raise that only because there are 4 objectives of this climate justice campaign, and one of them is to make sure that we identify and share with the audience, the national audience, who these people are who look like us in this space, who are doing this kind of revolutionary work, and I do think it's revolutionary. It's also about centering the voices of people of color in this climate campaign conversation, which, as you know, really doesn't exist at the level that it should. Because when the air is bad and the water is bad, we all suffer. I don't care what color you are, what part of the globe you live in. I say all that to ask how it feels for you to be a person of color doing something that is, I think, ultimately going to be iconic, unique, and game-changing in a climate campaign, a climate justice space where many of us just don't exist.
Yeah. Our voices, I will just share with you one of the engines that keep me going, one of the things that motivate me on a daily basis, are two young African-American kids who are now in their 20s, who are more proud of me as their father today than they were as me as an athlete or an actor. And I can't tell you what that means when it comes to leadership in my own home, but leadership among our community, because it gives an example of taking up these tasks and these challenges, regardless of where you are in the world, and where you are in your community. I am an example of someone that didn't come out of MIT, that didn't grow up a material scientist, but yet here I am solving a problem in the world that probably everyone expected the likes of Bill Gates or Elon Musk or other people with more resources and more perceived dominance over the intellect around technology and innovation. But all I did was I signed up for service, and I signed up for something greater than my own individual accomplishment in terms of status or economics. It was about solving a problem that needed to be solved, and building a team that would be willing to commit to such a crusade, regardless of their background, their race, their ethnicity, and I've had people follow me as a leader as we take this challenge on, and I've watched the community around construction and concrete grow in their respect. Because you walk in, I get it a couple of ways, right? I get it. What is an athlete doing, trying to change what we build in the world? Then it's like, okay, what is an actor doing, trying to change the way we build in the world?
No, I get
it. And then underneath all of it is, what is this? What is a black man without a material science degree changing the way we build in the world, right? So I just stand and anchor myself in the fact that anything is possible when you work from a place of foundational faith of who you are. And I come from a country where black men run the country. I come from a country where my dad was an entrepreneur and a leader in the community. So I don't have any noise about believing that I shouldn't be able to run a company and be a leader in a company that's changing the way we build in the world.
I ain't mad at him, and he's doing it. Sometimes you have to assign yourself, as I said earlier, and it's a beautiful thing to see a person of color doing this. And Rick Fox has always been a very thoughtful brother, and I think you can hear that in this conversation. To learn more about his company, it's called Partana, P-A-R-T-A-N-N-A. You can go to homes.partana.com, homes.partana.com, or just look up Partana, P-A-R-T-A-N-N-A, learn more about what the legendary Rick Fox is doing in this space. Rick, good to have you on. I'll talk to you offline at some point. We'll talk more about this climate justice campaign. We'd love to have you be a part of it.
Thank you. I'd love to be included.
All the best to you, my friend. Thank you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The White House is brushing off new polling showing President Biden trailing Donald Trump in key battleground states. African-American Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters polls should be taken with a grain of salt. She pointed to last year's midterm elections, noting a predicted red wave that never materialized. The poll from the New York Times and Siena College shows Trump beating Biden in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Washington, D.C. is officially welcoming its top cop. Pamela Smith was confirmed as D.C.'s chief of police yesterday. The vote came nearly 4 months after she was nominated and will go down in history. She's the first black woman to ever lead the agency. Council members praised her neighborhood walks and said her leadership style gives the community hope. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 five-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Custom blinds at low prices and free shipping. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron has a rematch tonight in Houston with Dylan the Villain Brooks. Brooks signed with Houston in the summer after Memphis let him go. Brooks called LeBron old during their playoff series last season. He was ejected in Game 3 for hitting LeBron below the belt. Brooks is already talking smack. He said he's ready to lock up LeBron. 5 p.m. tip-off. The Clippers are at Brooklyn tonight. Second game for James Harden with the Clippers, 4:30 tip. Virginia Union will play Winston-Salem State in the NBA's HBCU Classic during All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis. The game will be Saturday, February 17th. TNT and ESPN2 will have live coverage. The Rams signed veteran quarterback Carson Wentz, a first-round pick in the 2016 draft. The Rams need a backup quarterback after releasing Brett Ripien on Tuesday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
Anyone can choose to make a difference. You can help people succeed, rebuild after disasters, protect the environment, or feed the hungry. Not only will you make a difference for others, but for yourself. You can earn money for college, learn career skills, and make friendships that last a lifetime. Make a difference. Choose your future. Choose AmeriCorps.
Hey, everything okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Honey. Hey, I'm here for you. Tell me about school today.
When kids can't find the right words, music can help them sound it out. Talk to the kids in your life about their emotional well-being. Find tools and resources at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed. We thank Rick Fox for an amazing conversation. As I said, I love learning, and Rick just taught me and hopefully you some stuff that we didn't know. And I'm glad to see that he's at the forefront of doing this amazing work as a black man in this environmental space. So it was a great conversation. I thank Rick for doing that. Now, as promised on the backside of this hour, Paige Means Hopper says that black folks have been languishing in adaptive behaviors and antiquated non-solutions around race far too long. And now we find ourselves in a conspicuously alarming culture of confusion. We'll talk about that. But the ultimate question I want to tackle with her in the time that we have here is whether or not there is a way to heal the wounds of American slavery. Many don't want to even talk about it. They don't want to teach it. They don't want to talk about it. Here comes Paige talking about how we're going to heal the wounds of American slavery. And I'm pleased to welcome her to this studio. Paige, how are you today?
I am amazing, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Well, at the onset, I want to say that this is a man with incredible integrity. You're a man of incredible integrity, and I'm just honored to be here, that you kept your word. We talked, 13 years ago, and I said, I have this book that I'm writing, and I'd really like to have a conversation. And you said, Paige, when you're finished with the book, circle back around to me, and we'll have a national conversation. And here we are. That speaks volumes about you. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. My mama is glad to hear that. But that ain't nothing but the Lord, though. I'm just glad that 13 years later, I'm still here.
Yes,
and 13 years later, you got the book done.
Same.
And so here we are having this conversation. All praise to him.
That's right.
For that. Let me jump right in, though, make the most of this time.
Okay,
so
great.
I said a moment ago that we're in a moment in this country right now, speaking of confusion, where people don't want to talk about the truth. They don't want to teach the truth. And this reparations conversation, people watching California to see if we're going to do anything and what we're going to do. I say all the time, what happens in California casts a long shadow or a long sunbeam across the nation. So people are watching us on this issue. But let's just keep it real. By and large, for the most part, people don't want to have a conversation about slavery anymore. There's slavery fatigue in this country. Even black folk don't want to see slavery films anymore. If it's slavery, I don't want to go see it. So here you come now suggesting that in this moment you want us to wrestle with this notion of healing the wounds of American slavery. How do we do that in this space?
Well, first of all, everything comes out of recognition, right? It comes out of knowing. Because until we know what we're dealing with, you said the word wrestle. That's apropos. Because it is a wrestle. It's a coming out of darkness in terms of our way of thinking. We say that we're woke, but what are we woke to? And so what I'm thinking is that based on what I've done over the last 20 years, which is get into the etymology of the wounds, I'm talking about specific wounds, 10 in particular, that I've wrestled with and had to go through a process. And so that's what it will take. But it is indeed a process. I think a lot of us want to go to externals like education, politics, and all of those things matter, science even. But at the end of the day, what's happening is that as we know, most of us know, some of us know, that it is within us to make the change. But then what are we actually looking at within us? And so I had an experience in probably 2000 to 2002 where I literally had what I used to call slave memory recall until I did a little research and I found out that it was actually epigenetics. And epigenetics is the study of one generation having gone through extreme trauma, and through that DNA, it passes down to the next generation and the next and the next until someone realizes, hey, this is what's going on, and stops it. Now, brothers and sisters have been in the lab for a long time trying to discover what it is that's continuing through historical events all the way through our current construct. And it wasn't until a Jewish scientist, Rachel Yehuda, did some research on the Holocaust. And she did research on the descendants of the Holocaust and discovered that it was the same cell in the DNA of the actual Holocaust survivors that transferred down to the descendants and caused them to have the same visceral reactions that their ancestors had. Yes.
So what I want to make sure I'm hearing you clearly.
Please.
I know the audience wants to be clear on this as well.
Please.
So what you're telling me is that this trauma is passed on generation to generation, like it's a part of our DNA.
It's a part of our DNA. And I didn't know that until I had the experience that I had. I was sitting somewhere and someone was praying for me, actually. And what occurred is that I'm sitting there in my clothes and right mind, and suddenly I started having a memory that was not mine. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't anything esoteric or spooky like that. It was literally a memory, and it was of a slave girl who was about 14 years old, and she's in a cabin. Her family's there. She looks out of the cabin, sees rows and rows and rows of cotton, and says to herself, I've got to go out here and pick this cotton. The sun's going to be biting my back like the devil's eyes. These stalks are going to be pricking my fingers, and I've got to pick set amount of cotton today. Otherwise, they're going to take me around to the back of the barn and beat me to within an inch of my life. And it was so real for me that when I came back from this memory, I was screaming bloody murder. And then that's when I started to explore what really happened to our ancestors and what's really inside of me and you and all of us as a result. Because again, we can change policy. We can get as much education as we want to. We can even get into the sciences. We can do anything we want. But until we literally look inside of what's happening in us and what really happened, that's the cue that I got that started this book.
We used to sing a song in my little church, and the song was, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? I want to ask, can the cycle be unbroken?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you said, it begins with you and it begins with me. And the actual beginning of it is just the recognition of it, because the word also says that know the truth and the truth shall set you free. It doesn't say the truth shall set you free. It says you must first know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And that is the medicine. Like you said, there are a lot of people that fake news, all of the things that are happening right now. People don't want to talk about the absolute truth. We all have our own relative truth. But there's salt and there's pepper. There's chocolate and there's vanilla. There's black and there's white. And at the end of the day, unless we start to look inside of ourselves at these wounds and how they are interacting between us, between two people, between two entities, between two countries, between two whatever it is. Sometimes you think you're talking to the person, but what you're really talking to is their fear, or you're talking to their masking and pretending, which our ancestors had to do a lot of. All of the contained rage, because they couldn't do anything about the condition they were in. Nothing at all without the threat of having someone sold or killed or beaten, again, within an inch of our lives. And so we actually need to look at what are these wounds and how do they affect us. The etymology helped me with that, because when I started to look at the roots of these words, what happened was I started to discover that they were all from European background, all from European roots. And so I came in touch with what was actually absolutely happening when they instilled the fear. It was purposely programmed. You know, the division was purposely programmed. And whether or not people believe the Willie Lynch letter, which I've done a lot of research on that, and that's neither here nor there either, because it could either be true or not true, but at the end of the day, the formula or the programming that was instilled in black people through the slavery construct is still there, and it still works. Old against young, nappy head against the silky head. You know, all those things, field Negro versus house Negro.
Dark
all
light,
of those
dark
dark
skin,
light,
light
all of
skin,
those
yeah,
constructs,
yeah. Sure.
The chase system.
When we come forward, I want to talk about the etymology. You've teed that up, and I want to go right into it. And these 10 areas that we can't do justice to all 10, but I want to give the audience a sense of what these 10 areas are, vis-a-vis the etymology, the research that you did, and how, in fact, we get to a place of healing the wounds of American slavery. It's just fascinating already to just learn that there's scientific data, not hocus pocus stuff, but scientific data would suggest that this is passed on from generation to generation. This sort of trauma is in our bones in many respects, and we'll talk about that more. The author of the book is Paige Means Hopper. She's live with us in the studio right now. The book is called Healing the Wounds of American Slavery. You're listening to Paige right now on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation.
In August 2020, after the death of George Floyd, Bridget Floyd and other family members established the George Floyd Memorial Foundation in support of the Black community.
It's going to take more than just us as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to make a change.
Fight for racial justice for the Black community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Hello?
Man, where are you? I thought you were coming.
I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf. Man, I'll call you back.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Thinking about hosting a podcast and don't know where to start? Morris Media Studios has you covered. We're a professional podcast and voiceover studio located in Leimert Park. We specialize in recording and live streaming audio and video podcasts. Let us help you set up, record, and distribute your podcast. Hosting a podcast is a great way to bring awareness to your business, product, or good cause. For more info, visit morrismediastudios.com or give us a call at 323-815-4204.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Page Means Hopper is our guest. You said earlier, I'm watching my time, it's getting tight here. So you said earlier that you were looking at the etymology of our existence, as it were.
Yes.
And you did that in 10 specific areas.
10 specific areas.
Give me some of the areas that you were looking at, that your research took you into.
I will give you what they are. They are fear, which is the granddaddy of all the wounds. Mm-hmm. Kind of stands as a command post and tells all the other wounds how to behave. Mm-hmm. Contained rage, jealousy, self-hatred, damaged belief systems, under and overachieving, mental illness, grief and brokenness, death, and masking and pretending. And if I take contained rage, that would be a good example of telling you what happened with the etymology. As I went to go look where that came from, what I discovered is that it came from a word from the French language called rabia. And when you break that down to its root is rabies. And so what I looked at is, what are rabies? What is rabies? I've seen rabid dogs, and they foam at the mouth, and they chomp, and they just will bite whatever's in front of them because they're aggressive and they're assertive and they're raging. And so what I recognized is that the rabies had to be transferred from one place to another. And so it transferred from the slave holders to our ancestors. Because you have to have a certain mindset. You have to have a certain way of being in order to be able to inflict the kind of torture and terror that they inflicted on our ancestors. And so they were embodying that, and it transferred to our ancestors. Unwittingly, they passed it down to us because, again, when you're terrified in that way, it affects you physiologically. And so that's how it passed down from them to us, and through some behavioral patterns. Generational behavioral patterns.
Say a word more about, you ran the list of 10. I'm glad you did, and the audience can get the book and read more about those 10 and your research in that regard. But back to this first one, the granddaddy of them all, fear. Talk to me about that.
Fear causes a human being to shut down. It paralyzes us. And when we arrived, our ancestors arrived on the continents, in the colonies, as it were. All that was done, even from the time they were captured or sold. Come on, let's be real about it.
By other Africans.
By other Africans.
Yeah.
From that point, the fear of not knowing where you're going, not knowing what's about to happen, the fear of the unknown. There are so many different fears. Fear of, rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of different things. But the fear was mostly the fear of the unknown, because from one moment to the next, they did not know what was going to happen to them, who was going to happen by, where it was coming from, whether or not someone was going to be sold. They stayed in a constant stage of fear. Well, let's just fast forward that to today's cultural construct, where we don't know when we're going to scroll down our computer and see the next brother or sister who's been murdered, see, families who are turning against one another, see 5 cops beat down a young brother to his death. So the fear is what keeps us paralyzed in some sense and keeps people from wanting to do the suffering that it takes, the process that it takes to get to the actual truth of who we are.
Let's talk about the process. I started this conversation by asking whether or not it's possible to heal the wounds of American slavery. Paige says it is, but there is a process. We'll talk about the process when we come forward in our remaining moments with her on Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency. On low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
So I can't do justice to this book in 30 minutes. It's called "Healing the Wounds of American Slavery" by Paige Means Hopper. It's a brilliant piece of work, and I wanted to make some time for her on this program. But I want to talk about the process because there are those who, particularly, I could argue after hearing what you've laid out, about how this stuff is passed on from generation to generation. How does one go about healing that? And you say there's a process.
There is a process.
Tell me about it.
And what's interesting is that this book will lead the individual to their own particular process.
Mm-hmm.
My process was, first of all, as I've said, and I can't say it enough, is knowing not even my truth. I don't like to say that because that points to relative truth.
Right.
The truth will set me free. And so my process was finding out what is inside here. What's going on? And so I had to do a lot of just silent meditating. I had to do a lot of asking questions of myself to just poke around and kind of diagnose myself. What am I feeling in my heart and why? What am I feeling in my solar plexus and why? What am I feeling in my head? What is that? And so getting in touch with that without, again, getting too esoteric and, do. We're not going to do that. It's real. It's a concrete process. But that's the first thing, is first being willing to explore it. We talked about suffering before. There is some suffering because it's a purging. Yeah. It's a purging process. It's coming out of agreement with what others say about me and looking to see who I really am.
Why does that matter to us so much?
Why does what matter to us so much?
What other folk think of us?
Oh my gosh, because one of the wounds is masking and pretending. And we do that because we don't want others to know, because that makes us too vulnerable. It makes us too accessible in some cases, being genuine, authentic. It makes us very vulnerable. And no one wants to be vulnerable because once you're vulnerable, then that means that in some cases, people think that it makes you weak. But it's just the opposite. Once you're vulnerable, people want to know the essence. They want to know the truth. They really do. We're searching for the truth. A lot of people are searching for the truth.
Oh, yeah.
Although some don't want to know, the majority of us do. And so that's what makes it difficult, is that we mask and we pretend. Our ancestors masked. They pretended,
I think we live in a world now. You mentioned relative truth a couple of times, and I was saying to you during one of the breaks that my view has always been that it is the telling of truth that allows the suffering to speak. If no one tells the truth, then the suffering gets rendered invisible. I think you're right. I want to noodle on this the rest of the day. I think you're right. I believe that most people, most human beings, most fellow citizens are still in search of truth. That's what life ultimately is. It's a search. It's a quest for truth. And yet I'm trying to square my belief, I think, that most of us are in a search for truth with the fact that truth is so relative today, that the truth is what each of us determines it to be. In 60 seconds, can you square those two things?
Yes, that's what has us blinded, is the relative truth. There aren't that many of us who are willing, like yourself, like myself, to tell the truth and be with the consequences of the truth that comes from me, the truth that comes from you. And there's no, you tell your truth, I tell my truth, we meet somewhere in the middle. There's the truth, and there's the waking up to that we're both looking at a white piece of paper right now on a black desk. That's it. It's simple. It's like my producer told me that, sometimes we look for a really complicated solution for something that is just stark simple, just at its rarest, purest simplicity. And that's it. What is the truth? Our ancestors went through a horrific existence. That's the truth, and that's what we have to talk about.
It's an amazing book. As I said, I can't do justice to it in 30 minutes, but you're going to hear more about this, trust me.
Awesome.
I'll leave it there for now. You hear more about this book. It's called Healing the Wounds of American Slavery, written by Paige Means Hopper. Paige, I've enjoyed this immensely. I'll close where you began. I didn't know 13 years ago that we'd be in this space, but I gave you my word then, and you, more importantly, forget my word, you did your part. You wrote the book. You did the research, you wrote the book, and it's my great honor to have you on to celebrate it. So congrats on the book, and thank you for coming and see me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Highness.
Get out of here. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The White House is brushing off new polling showing President Biden trailing Donald Trump in key battleground states. African-American Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters polls should be taken with a grain of salt. She pointed to last year's midterm elections, noting a predicted red wave that never materialized. The poll from the New York Times and Siena College shows Trump beating Biden in